It is fantasy football season, and try to decide how to approach your draft, it can be a massive headache. In this series, I'm going draft slot by draft slot, talking over what you can expect to see from your draft position, what strategies you can use, which players you might want to take, and which players you might want to avoid. We'll touch on the sleepers available later on, and we'll even run through a super quick mock draft so you can see exactly how I would draft from each position. In this video, the 112, these are the players you can expect to see around that turn. Garrett Wilson. So far through Garrett Wilson's career, he's caught passes or at least been targeted by quarterbacks like Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, Mike White, Chris Streveler, Trevor Siemian, Tim Boyle, and very briefly, Aaron Rodgers. Even at 40 years old and coming off an Achilles injury, Aaron Rodgers is still by far the best quarterback that Garrett Wilson has ever played with. Wilson posted an identical 56% catch rate in both of his seasons in the NFL, but it shouldn't be surprising to see that jump by a good amount this year. The biggest concern will be where the Jets play slow and their defense keeps the games low scoring. Aaron Rodgers has always had his favorites though, and in the red zone, Garrett Wilson can absolutely thrive and easily score double-digit touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor. With Zach Moss out of Indy, there is nobody who can challenge Jonathan Taylor for a massive amount of touches. We know Anthony Richardson is a player who still needs time to develop, and it's fairly likely that the Colts are going to lean run heavy at times to work around that, particularly with Josh Downs dealing with a high ankle sprain. Whenever a dual threat quarterback is in the backfield, defenses are forced to defend an extra player. That allows the running backs to frequently be more efficient. We've seen this time and time again. This can help make up for the fact that Jonathan Taylor, he's not going to be seeing a lot of receptions this year. We know that's something else that dual threats just don't do. Why check the ball down when they can see the field in front of them and they can make a run for it themselves? There's also the possibility that Jonathan Taylor sees plenty of goal line usage this year, particularly after Anthony Richardson got himself injured on those plays in 2023. Picking on the turn is always tricky, but picking at the 112, there's two players who I do not want to draft here. Saquon Barkley. Having just turned 27 years old this offseason, Saquon Barkley isn't necessarily past it just yet, but he's played over 14 games just once in the last 3 years. Through 7 seasons, he has only 3 1,000-yard seasons. Barkley, he finds himself playing on the best offense and with the best offensive line of his career now, but there's still reasons to be pessimistic. Barkley's averaged 293 receiving yards per season over the last 3 years, falling below 1.0 yards per route run in 2 of the last 3 seasons, and not having been above 1.5 since his rookie season. The Eagles, they threw the ball to running backs at the 12th lowest rate last season, so that doesn't really help Barkley's case either. Perhaps they felt that they needed a more electric receiver, but I'm not sure Saquon Barkley is that for the reasons we just mentioned. This is before we even get into the fact that Jalen Hurts, when it comes to the cheek sneak, the brotherly shove, whatever you want to call it, he had 16 rush attempts inside the 5-yard line last year, the 8th most among all players, and he converted them into 13 touchdowns. Why would you go away from that? Davante Adams is 31 years old. Friend of the channel, Dwayne McFarland of Fantasy Life, he's got plenty of data about how wide receivers decline at this age, producing on average between 30 to 40% of what they did at their peak. Clearly, Davante Adams has a large opportunity ahead of him, with only Jacoby Myers as meaningful competition at wide receiver, and he'll likely rarely leave the field, moving from inside, outside, in and out of the slot. But this is going to be a run-heavy team. We know that's the identity of Antonio Pierce. That's what he's wanted to do ever since he took over as head coach. It's also likely that neither Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew are particularly good or reliable at quarterback. Adams, he is a fine pick, but later on, definitely not this high up. We're going to use Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard to mock draft. It is insanely customizable. You can sync it to your leagues and automatically copy the settings in. Then it'll adjust the rankings for that. You can choose which expert rankings and insights you'd like to see, including mine, which are part of the expert consensus rankings of over 100 people from across the fantasy football industry. There's no waiting around for other people. Nobody taking 6 kickers in the mock draft. Instead, we can mock draft against the Wizard, get feedback from top experts on our drafts. Check out the link in the description below to start your own mock drafts right now. If you are finding our videos for the first time, do me a solid and hit that subscribe button down below. We are ever so close to 3,000 subscribers. Here we do Dynasty, we do Best Ball, we do Redraft, we do DFS. We get you cooking all year long. Picking number 112, half PPR league, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 flex spot, defense, kicker, 6 bench spots. Let's get into it. Picking of a turn, you can see the top 4 running backs are all off the board. So let's take Jonathan Taylor for our first pick. And then let's take Puka Nacua, who could easily be going a few spots later if it wasn't for that nagging injury. We've got 1 running back, 1 wide receiver. Why not add 1 tight end to the mix in Sam Laporta? And then let's add Lamar Jackson, who we know has that massive ceiling and can win leagues. When it comes back around, we'll take Devonta Smith as our wide receiver 2, T. Higgins as our wide receiver 3. We've really made up for the fact that through the first 6 rounds, we only got to 3 wide receivers when we'd already added a running back, a tight end, and a quarterback. Javonte Williams works as our RB2. The camp hype on him has been steadily building. We'll take Keenan Allen as our wide receiver 4, and then figure the running back position out when it comes back around. Running backs are starting to dry up a little bit. This is an area of the draft that I like taking them. Zach Charbonnet, we'll add him to the mix. And then let's add Rico Dowdle, who could easily be the RB1 in Dallas this year. When it comes back around, we're seeing more tight ends go off the board, but we're okay with Sam Laporta. Let's push that further. We don't need a quarterback. We don't need a tight end. We can take Tyler Algier, who gives us really good leverage against the Bijan Robinson drafter. He could be excellent if he gets a big opportunity to really take a lot of touches. We're in the 12th round. Let's take Jerry Jeudy, who maybe Deshaun Watson is just awful at football, but maybe Jerry Jeudy puts it all together this year. We've got 3 picks left. We're going to have to take a kicker or defense for one of them. Instead, though, right now for our first pick, let's take Rashad Bateman, stack him up with Lamar Jackson. Maybe it never works out for Rashad Bateman, but man, like, the camp hype has been relentless for Rashad Bateman this year. And then rather than take a kicker first, let's take a defense, and we'll take the New York Jets, who have all the talent, never really put it together, but maybe this is the year, and we'll round things out with a kicker. And let's go Jason Myers in Seattle. Fun kicker who's done well over the years. A-, 92 out of 100. Pat Fitzmaurice giving us an A. Love that. We drafted 2 players ranked inside the top 3 at their position in Sam Laporta and the New York Jets DST. If we drafted Cooper Kupp at the 401 and drafted QB later, score would have been 36 points higher. Definitely something to consider. Week 12, we've got a few players on buys, but we can deal with that nearer the time. Rico Dowdle is the number 1 running back in our consensus sleeper rankings, so big fan of that. What would you have done differently from 112? Leave me a comment, tell me, ask me any questions you want. We answer 100% of questions around here. Hit the subscribe button. We've got so much redraft content coming your way. It's going to really help you maximize your chances of winning big in 2024.